Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Chad Steingraber here on Twitter posting this, okay? Holy, not many times do you get them straight up tell you what's going to happen. This is Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, okay? And he's a financial minister here. And guess what he's talking about, guys? The de-dollarization process. And he says the de-dollarization process has already been launched. A process has been set in motion for the world leaders to make recommendations on alternative payment platforms, and there's no stopping it. So I wanted to play you guys this clip, but it is in Russian. So I thought I would just turn off the volume and see if I can just read these subtitles. Really, let's see if I can do it. Okay, so a process has been set in motion following the most recent summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. So he goes on to say, the world leaders asked their finance ministers and central bank governors to make recommendations, excuse me, on alternative payment platforms. Thus, the process is underway and there's probably no stopping it. This is what's called de-dollarization, the transition to payment methods independent of the dollar. Speaking of which, this is not limited to just BRICS, but also within the Latin American continent. President Lula of Brazil suggested that CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, safeguard their trade and economic relationships against the abuse of the dollar's role in the global financial system. Very, very interesting to say the least. And then it repeats there. So he is saying straight up, the de-dollarization process has been launched, guys. This is in motion. This is coming from Russia, one of the BRICS countries, obviously. Of course, this begs more questions like what is going to happen, when it comes to trade with the BRICS nations and Western countries, for example, the United States being a large one and, much of Europe too. Are they looking to use this as a weapon? I mean, they're not really saying that, okay, we're weaponizing this and, you can't trade with us. It's not like that. It's more about, well, we have established ourselves. We do not need you anymore, and therefore we are going to use our own system, and there's nothing you can really do about it, and you can join in if you want, and, we'll work together to do something, but we're definitely not using the US dollar. So it's about this diplomatic kind of stance here. Now that the BRICS nations have the power and more countries are joining into the BRICS nations, they're just getting more and more powerful and more resourceful. Literally, more, they're going to have more resources available to them to trade. So, in and amongst themselves, I could see how, it's beneficial for this group to, really work together. If you do live in one of those BRICS countries, I'm sure, your country will benefit. But what is this going to mean for Western nations? Very, very interesting question here. And I think that, a lot of this falls into the category of, okay, well, the economy is changing. We're tokenizing more. We're going to be using DLT technologies like RippleNet, leveraging the XRP ledger, leveraging cryptocurrencies like XRP. So guys, it all ties in. DJ Peter Vass also bringing this to our attention. Okay, so IOSCO drops final crypto sector recommendations. So we got to understand too, this is the Organization of Securities Commission, okay? Global Securities Regulator published their final recommendations for regulating firms in the crypto markets, an initiative that aims at establishing common standards for the fledgling sector, and create a more level playing field between traditional and crypto markets. The International Organization of Securities Commission issued a report that sets out its recommendations, which are based on the principles that crypto markets should be held to the same basic standard as traditional financial markets. Following the global policymakers' mantra, the same activity, same risk, same regulatory outcome. So they are realizing, okay, crypto markets need to be regulated, of course, because, if we're going to be using cryptocurrencies for real world problems like XRP, for example, and a handful of others, well, they can't be, going crazy and people can't be trading them on spec. So I think that the crypto market, like Brad Garlinghouse has said, and like many other pundits have said, it's going to calm down. I think, once we start to see a lot of these prices really start to move, I think, a lot of the scams will be weeded out. And I know the SEC is trying to do that in a kind of roundabout face way, not so much directly. They've got their ulterior motives too. Obviously, I'm not defending the SEC or saying that they're great by any means, but it's this multi-prong approach from many different countries. And, considering the US is a very influential country when it comes to this. the United States regulation is going to play an important role. So here's what IOSCO said. Okay, one of IOSCO's goals, or IOSCO, one of their goals is to promote greater consistency with respect to how their members approach the regulation and oversight to crypto asset activity, given the cross-border nature of the markets, the risks of regulatory arbitrage, and significant risk of harm to which retail investors continue to be exposed. Specifically, the recommendations aim to address issues such as conflicts of interest, market manipulation, insider trading and fraud, asset custody, retail distribution, operational risk, and cross-border cooperation. So this is, I'm sure they've got a huge framework here. All their recommendations of how the crypto market should be regulated. Of course, this is coming at a time when we're seeing more tokenization occurring on the blockchain. And, we've even heard from influential players that tokenization is going to be key moving forward. And they're already saying that it's occurring. We firmly believe that asset tokenization will grow to become a market worth at least 10 trillion US dollars by 2030, representing a 40-fold increase in the value of tokenization assets or tokenized assets from 2022 to 2030. So even if we just pull up a calculator here and we say 40-fold, so $10 trillion, that's million, billion, trillion, divided by 40, what is it now? $250 billion? That's what they're saying it is now in 2022, or last year in 2022. So it is growing. This would mark a significant rise from the current value of around $300 billion, and that was as of October the 13th, 2023. So here's where we are, guys, and tokenization on the XRP ledger. We've talked about this in the past. I've done several videos about this over the last several months. So this is going to be big. XRP is also going to be leveraged quite heavily, and the more demand we see, obviously, for this particular coin, the better it's going to be. So this is why we're in these long-term coins, right? The value proposition for down the road. By 2030, XRP, the price I think will be unbelievable to many, similar to what, some people have said that Apple did back in, from the 90s to present day, I guess we could say. If you just look at this chart here, just taking a look at how well this stock performed. I'm going to throw it on the weekly here. How well this stock performed, pretty much flat throughout the 80s and 90s. And you would think, decades and decades and decades of building, and it's just did this for like a decade and a half. And then there was the tech boom, the .com boom. We did see a bit of an increase there, but then it just came right back down after that bust. But then, guys, it was the introduction of the iPod that really got Apple stock rocking and rolling, going up how many percent in the last 20 years? 80,800% in the last 20 years. So 20 years of turmoil, 20 years of pretty much sideways, crappy trading, and then 80,000%. So, I don't think XRP is going to take that long. I think, we're already seeing tokenization really kind of ramping up. $10 trillion by 2030, which would represent a 40-fold increase. So, if you got an XRP trading at 61 cents today, even just straight math would show $24.40, but that is just for one use case. I think XRP is going to be utilized in a lot more situations than just tokenization. But if we look at tokenization specifically, the ISO GOAT noticed something very, very interesting. I just wanted to give Big Billy Goat shoutouts to Seneca Johnson 16 for what is about to follow, okay? So UBS, Citi, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, HSBC, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Barclays. Most of these banks, guys, are American banks, okay? So Citibank, Sachs, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley, all American banks. And guys, they all filed the same form with the SEC. We just noticed some things. Interesting to say the least. I'm going to go through some of these with you guys. These are all the same forms, and they're listing this here. Look at what he's noting here: $1,000, a $1,000 price tag per security. Now, this is from UBS, okay, UBS Bank, and this is just one of the banks that have filed one of these papers. But it keeps going. Citigroup also filed the same thing down here, stated $1,000 per security. As you guys can see up here, this is a Form 42 4B2 for Citigroup Inc. Okay, let me continue. Goldman Sachs Group. Here we're also seeing this, the same form here. And we're seeing $1,000, the investment purchase for securities, $1,000. Continuing along, Bank of America Finance, okay, another 42 4B2 document here, $1,000. Same information we're getting here from HSBC. We're seeing the $1,000 note per security. Very, very interesting that all of these banks are doing this all at the same time. And our dear friend JP Morgan Chase, as guarantor notes, minimum denominations of $1,000 and integral multiples thereof. So Morgan Stanley also, same thing, guys, $1,000 per security. And Barclays too, we also have that information there. Did he point it out here? Yeah, $1,000. $1,000 principal note calculated as follows. So what does it mean? World Be Free asks. Well, the ISO GOAT is saying that they're still working on it. But, you know, it's interesting. When we look this up, the SEC Form 424B must include information about a company's newly issued securities. So these are newly issued securities, including the price set for the securities and their method of distribution. The purpose of the form is to empower investors to make an informed decision on whether to invest in the securities being offered. So something is happening here. We don't really know what. If we look here, though, the ISO GOAT also posted this. Okay, JP Morgan Chase. Again, this 424B2 document here. I am really wondering if this does have to do with standard securities or something else. Possible reason for JPM 424B2 filing, delayed securities offering, and here's a whole bunch of tokenized stocks. So notice this, okay, a whole bunch of tokenization, tokenized stocks by market cap and volume. Guys, we already have confirmation that stocks are going to be tokenized. We already do know, too, that November is going to be that transition month for ISO 20022. If all calculations are correct and, based on the documentation that we've seen so far, we've been noticing that the go-live date is going to be November the 20th. 2023. So is this information that, we're going to see more tokenization than maybe we initially thought? Is 2024 going to be the year of tokenization? And are we going to see more value being driven on blockchains like the XRP ledger? Securitize issues first EU pilot regime tokenized security. So even as far back as July of 2023, which was only a few months ago, we already noticed that companies like Securitize, they announced that their issuance of the first European Union security token for equity in the Spanish real estate investment trust, the REIT, that they were going to tokenize this. Securitize is currently operating within the sandbox of Spanish securities regulators, so it was still a bit of a pilot. The token is minted on the Avalanche blockchain, where the foundation earlier this week said it would invest $50 million in tokenized issuances. So, pilots coming to an end. I have a feeling that, we are going to see maybe a new world by 2024. I know, generally speaking, December is not a very busy month because there are the holidays. So, Wall Street and all the other financial players are just kind of getting their books in order. And, this is also the reason why I have a feeling we are likely going to see a bit of a downturn in the crypto space, probably a downturn in the stock market as well. Speaking of which, let's just bring up the S&P 500 and let's just take a look at that on, we'll look at it on the weekly. And let's just zoom out here. And so as you guys can see, teetering still, the S&P not being able to make new highs. So it has been strong over the last few days. But what are we going to see next? I mean, it's anyone's guess. Historically, December is one of those months, though, that we don't really see too many gains. Bitcoin has also taken a bit of a hit over the last several days. I think we will see a correction in the crypto space. Not going to see a huge correction, but guys, possibly a good opportunity throughout the next few months to buy the dip. I have a feeling it's going to feel like a crypto winter. But are we going to see something positive coming out the other side? Tokenized securities? It looks like all these American banks are already on board. So wanted to thank, huge shout out to the ISO GOAT on Twitter for this. I don't know, something to be paying attention to. That's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.